For everyone joining, we want to welcome you to today's Veterans Briefing. We'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. We're looking forward to this wonderful presentation and happy to have you here.
Thanks.
I'd also like to add, for those of you who have already joined us, if you are familiar with utilizing the chat box, it's always wonderful if you could share your name. If you are someone who has served in the military, if you're comfortable sharing the branch of service and era of service, and if you work with a veteran service organization, we appreciate knowing what organization you are joining with today. Thank you. For those of you just joining us, our empath veterans briefing will be getting started in just about another minute. If you are familiar with the chat box, we would encourage you to share your name, the organization that you are supporting if you are joining from a veteran service organization. And if you've served in the military, if you're comfortable sharing your branch of service as well as your era of service. We thank you for being here, and we'll get started in just about a moment.
Okay, thanks for joining us, everybody. My name is Trudy Beeler. I am the Veteran Community Partnership Specialist here at Empath Health. We are a proud Level 5 partner of the We Honor Veterans program, which is an initiative that started about 12 years ago when the VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, looking at data, really started to realize that veterans were underutilizing end-of-life support and services. So an initiative began called We Honor Veterans, where community hospices and organizations become partners in that program to commit to providing education, support, outreach, recognition, and honor to veterans in the community. So we've been a proud Level 5 partner here in Pinellas County for over 2 years. And a lot of our education and commitment stems from these veterans briefings that we host every month, as well as the coffee connections that you saw listed in the opening slides, our veteran pinning ceremonies. So certainly if you are working with veterans in the community or veteran caregivers and they have chronic and terminal illness, grief and loss needs and support, caregiver support needs, please do reach out to us. We have a wealth of programs and information and support that we want to continue extending into the veterans community so that they have the care and support that they deserve and need. So without further ado, I'm very excited to have two special guests with us today, Brenda and Doug. Brenda is joining us from Veterans Funeral Care, and Doug is joining us from the Bay Pines National Cemetery. And we're going to be discussing funeral planning for veterans as well as VA burial benefits. So very important information. And we just had a bit of a discussion prior to the call opening up about the unfortunate fact that so many veterans don't understand or know about these benefits that are afforded to them. So without further ado, let's, Brenda, have you introduce yourself, and thank you for being here.
Hi, Trudy, Melissa, Doug. It's an honor to be a part of this webinar today. Personally, I'm Brenda Griesheimer. I've worked with Veterans Funeral Care for 8 years. I've been a pre-planning specialist for 15 years at different funeral homes and cemeteries in our community. And I was married to a Marine, a Vietnam Marine that was a radio repairman. And my dad and 6 uncles were all in World War II. So I'm just honored and proud to be able to help the veterans. It's a passion for me because I had 10 family members pass away over an 8-year period. And I just got too good at planning funerals. Only one had planned ahead, and that was my mom, because my dad did die unexpectedly at 61 years old. And we literally, my sister and I, had to carry my mom into the funeral home to pick out a casket. So shortly after that, she said, "Come on, girls, I'm going to go plan my own funeral. I'm not going to put you through what we just went through." So when she did die at 80 years old, and I saw how much easier that was on me and my sister, I walked into a funeral home at 5 o'clock on a Sunday evening, and I said, "I think I'm supposed to work for a funeral home." So that's what I've been doing for a long time now. And I'm blessed to be part of Veterans Funeral Care. Jim Rudolph and all the staff at VFC, we totally go above and beyond for the veterans. We do serve non-veterans as well, because he had so many veterans say, "Well, what about my family? What about my neighbors?" So he did open it up to everyone. But when it comes to the veterans, we cross every T and dot every I and make sure that the family is taken care of during and after, and just do it right. We speak veteran at Veterans Funeral Care. And here's a little slide showing you 21 years now we've been doing this, and we are a full service funeral home. We can do everything any funeral home can do: ship out a body, cremation, full casketed burial, military honors. We do it all. And about 70% of our families are veterans. And we have a wonderful museum in our funeral home, and just about everything in there is donated to us from families who we've served. And we're just so happy to honor those veterans by displaying their medals and their uniforms. And it's just a really cool museum. I hope you'll all take advantage. We're at 830 North Belcher Road in Clearwater. Stop in anytime to take a tour. I think you can go to the next slide. So we are Veterans Funeral Care, and we honor the veterans. If somebody just wants a simple cremation with no services, we also own Best Care Cremation. And you all are welcome to call me about any questions you might have about either location. Okay, next. And this shows our Officers Club in our funeral home, where people can have food after a service. We also allow groups to meet there. We have a lot of groups. The Marine Corps, they meet there. the Ladies Auxiliary, Marine Auxiliary, they meet there on a monthly basis. We don't charge for the use of our officers club if anybody needs a place to meet with people. And our chapel there, you can see, we can see 100 people in our chapel. Okay. Next. All right, this shows some pictures of our museum, and outside, we're proud of the museum. And this is Eric Cahill. He's one of our funeral directors. He's military, and he's in a lady's home presenting the flag to her. We, like I say, go above and beyond for the veteran families. Next. Our pricing is about a third of what you would pay at any of the other local crematories or funeral homes. It's really a privilege to tell families that with a small down payment, they can be on an interest-free payment plan for a couple of years. And we do everything from a simple cremation with no services to a viewing with an open casket funeral and then cremate afterward. Or some people still want to have a traditional funeral. So you'll see the different plans, and the difference in the casketed plans are the type of casket. So you see there, even if you go military funeral, that's about what you would pay for a casket most places, but that plan includes everything you're going to need plus the casket. And the only thing you pay for on top of that might be your death certificates, or if you want to give the honor guard a gratuity, we suggest 150 for the honor guard. You know, they're all volunteers and they have to get there, transportation and uniform upkeep. So we always suggest the gratuity or the honorarium for them. Okay. And this is also our general price list. You might not be able to see it, but we have receiving. We can go to the airport and receive a body, or we can send a body. We have so many snowbirds. Some people want to be buried up north. So we forward remains to wherever you need to go. We even send people, I noticed the other day, to Puerto Rico. Okay. Travel protection is something you hear about. Most funeral homes are offering this now. And what it is, it's a separate policy for $495. If you were 100 miles or more away from home and passed away, say you were visiting family or on a vacation, with this policy, it will get your body back into our care from anywhere in the world for no additional cost, just the $495 initial cost. Or if your family says, well, we don't need to say a final goodbye, just go ahead and cremate them where they fell, then we will do that. And then your ashes would be mailed to your family. So the travel protection has saved people thousands of dollars, because if you're in another land, it could take $10,000 to $20,000 to have your body returned. So this is a great benefit. And even if it's cremations, a funeral home's going to have to go to wherever you died, pick you up, take you into their care, and coordinate with us what you had prearranged or not. And so it can save a lot of money for families. Next. And we're always honored to mail your ashes to the Navy. If you served on the East Coast, we'll send you to Norfolk. And if you served on the West Coast, we're going to send you to San Diego. And they'll have a video that they'll send to your family. They'll have a certificate saying the longitude and latitude where they placed you. And also, our owner's brother Jeff Rudolph, he has a large boat, and if you just want to be scattered out in the Gulf, you don't have to be military. You can be scattered out there, and he'll also video and give the family a certificate. One day, a daughter came in crying because she had lost her certificate from when her dad was placed, but we have a copy of that in the file. So we were able to place her mother out in the Gulf at the same longitude and latitude where her father was placed. So it made everybody really happy. Okay. The national cemeteries, we have 3 local. We have Sarasota, we have Florida National up in Bushnell, and we have Bay Pines. Doug's going to talk to you more, of course, about Bay Pines. Right now, we are not having room for casketed burials at Bay Pines, but any cremation can be placed there still. But if you want to have a casketed burial, you'll need to go to Florida National or Sarasota. And Doug's going to tell you all about your benefits there. When I pre-plan with people, I usually go to their home, or if they want to see our museum and facility, they'll come to the funeral home. And I explain to them, I always ask, is your loved one that you're pre-planning for receiving a monthly disability check? And I tell them, if you are, and they pass away in a veterans hospital, then $828 for sure is going to be reimbursed to the family. And you also get reimbursed for the transporting of your body to us and to the cemetery. So a family can be reimbursed a good $1,300 usually. It can take maybe 8 months to get that money, but there will be money coming back. And so I think these slides will be available to you to tell you a little more about everything. If somebody's on aid and attendance, or if you don't die in a VA hospital, $300 for sure is going to be reimbursed to the family. And any veteran with a honorable discharge, we need your DD 214 to have you placed in one of the national cemeteries. And so many veterans don't even realize that their spouse can also be placed there. And if the spouse dies first, we can have them placed right away, and then the veteran would be placed with them later. And in the national cemeteries, it's going to be either a double niche, actually room for 3 urns in case you had a disabled child that could be buried with you as well. And then the ground spaces are double depth long crypts. So whoever dies first will be lower, and then a divider, and the second person to pass will be closer to the top. Okay. So I think I've made it clear, but I'd like to mention that if you pre-plan, you lock in on today's prices. And that can mean a lot, because prices, just like for anything else, are going up all the time. Our prices are very low, and when we do have a price increase, it's not much. But just like everywhere else, we have to keep up with the cost of living. So when you pre-plan, you lock in on the price. And a lot of people will say, well, I have life insurance, I'll use my life insurance, but you can't lock in on the price. If you use life insurance, it's going to be whatever our charges are at the time of death. So I always tell everyone, leave the life insurance for the living, because they're going to need it. The spouse left behind is not going to be living off of 2 Social Security checks anymore. It's going to be the higher one, but it's only going to be one. So, and also we have to charge a little bit to be able to get the money out of the life insurance quickly. So it's just a better idea to lock in on the price of everything in a pre-plan. So you're not paying more than you have to later. And plus, emotionally, that's okay. Emotionally is the #1 reason to pre-plan. You know, it's so hard on people when nothing's been planned. It's the difference of maybe 3 or 4 hours of crying and trying to remember your grandmother's name and things like that. It's just such a blessing when we walk in with the pre-arrangement paperwork and say, your father planned everything. Everything's been taken care of. You just let us know when do you want your service. So it's truly a gift. And this is about our Reiki share. We found that Reiki energy therapy is very beneficial for veterans with PTSD. I think everyone has a little PTSD right now with COVID and everything that we're going through. And what we do once a month, we have 3 different locations of Reiki energy shares, and I facilitate them. I've been a Reiki master for 7 years. I went to a meditation and I had a stress knot from work, and they said, would anyone like Reiki healing? Well, I didn't know what Reiki was, but I knew I didn't want that stress knot. So within moments of someone putting their hands on me, the stress knot was gone. And it happened again a couple weeks later. And I told my husband, I need to find out about this Reiki energy because it works. So I have a studio in Pinellas Park that I work out of. But as far as Reiki energy exchanges, or they call them Reiki Circles, that's open to anybody to come, and several practitioners will be there and go around the circle. That's in our officers club you're looking at there. And they'll give you little mini treatments, several people over and over. Trudy's Reiki, Tracy Stanko's Reiki, and it's just a wonderful thing. I'd love to tell you more about it. Okay, thanks. Okay, I love this. You see the mailbox out front of our funeral home. If a flag is too tattered to keep out in public, we take a flag and we cremate every veteran with a flag draped across them. And we cut one of the stars out of the flag and give that to the family on a certificate that was the flag that they were cremated with. So we're giving that flag one more opportunity to honor the veterans. We get a lot of them from the American Legion or the VFW. Operation Toy Soldier is something that Veterans Funeral Care started years ago. I think last year we gave 1,600 or more toys. We took them to MacDill. Tracy Stanko is in charge of this. We collect money, we collect toys. We have different locations. You'll see that barrel where you can leave a Christmas gift off all year long for military who maybe they're not going to be home for Christmas. Maybe they're deployed at Christmas, or maybe just a military family needs some help to buy toys for their families. So this has really turned into a wonderful charity and way for us to give back. Thanks. Okay, so I'll be around if anyone has questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. So we're going to hold questions until we've had our second presenter share information, just so that we can get everything presented in a timely manner. So without further ado, and thank you so much, Brenda, for your presentation today, and for Veterans Funeral Care for your continued support of our We Honor Veterans program, and most recently being the gracious hosts of one of our Veterans History Project story days, where we recorded the stories of 5 veterans on site at Veterans Funeral Care in the Officers Club location and the Military Museum. So we're so grateful for you and the team at Veterans Funeral Care. So thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to just thank you for coming to my neighbor's 98-year-old Army veteran and his nurse wife. And he was Patton's supply guy in the war. And you did a beautiful job of interviewing him. And he has ordered so many of those DVDs to give to his family and friends. And that was very special. Thank you.
Of course, the Veterans History Project is something we are very proud to be partners of at Empath Health. And we have actually submitted now well over 100 stories to the Library of Congress. So certainly if you have a veteran in your life or someone that you care for, certainly reach out to Melissa or myself to share that story so that we might look at that opportunity to record their story for posterity for future generations.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so Doug, Mr. Maddox, if you would like to introduce yourself, and then we can learn about some VA burial benefits.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Doug Maddox, and I am the Cemetery Director at Bay Pines National Cemetery. I am a retired Army officer of 28 years, and after my retirement from the military, I was driving my wife crazy because I was just hanging around the house. You know, you can only play so much golf, and you can only just do so much when you retire. Those of you that have retired know what I'm talking about. And she said, you need a hobby. You need to go do something. So I found my way to the VA hospital initially in West Palm Beach and secured a position there, and eventually made my way to the NCA, the National Cemetery Administration, which is another part of the VA family, and began my career there. Attended the National Cemetery Director intern program back in 2017. And my first duty assignment after graduating the director program was at Dallas Fort Worth National Cemetery. I arrived here in St. Petersburg in August of 2020, and it's a very special place to me for a number of reasons. First and foremost, I was born in St. Petersburg at St. Anthony's Hospital, and believe it or not, St. Anthony's Hospital is no longer conducting births, so I guess I'm part of the select few that can say they were born at St. Anthony's. I still have family living here in St. Petersburg, so this place is home to me. And no matter where I was deployed around the world or wherever I was stationed, and even while I was in Dallas, you know, St. Petersburg has always been a very place that's near and dear to my heart. So it was an honor and a true privilege for me to be able to come back here and serve the veteran community in my capacity as cemetery director. Right now at Bay Pines, we have about 10 individuals along with myself. 95% of my staff are all veterans, and the motto and what I try to impugn or to imbibe into all of my staff is that if it was our family coming here for our funeral or coming here to visit the cemetery or calling us on the phone, how would we want that family, our family, to be treated if they were here for our funeral? How would we want this place to look if they were coming to visit? And how would we want them to be spoken to? And everybody connects with that. And thus, I'm very, very pleased to say that we have secured a significantly high customer service rating from our families and our funeral home partners that we work with all around the country. And it's just a real privilege and an honor for me to be here and to also be speaking to you all today about a benefit that unfortunately is not really taken advantage of by many veterans and their families. So I'm hoping to enlighten many of you today, as well as asking a favor, and that is I need as many disciples to help me get the word out to the others in the veteran community that these benefits are available to them, and to please take advantage of them, because you earned it as a veteran, and it's your right and privilege to exercise it and use it to its fullest capacity. So without further ado, it's going to go over about the basics as far as benefits go, the options that you have, the committal services, what documents are necessary. We're going to talk a little bit about the actual products that you will receive as a veteran and or a spouse of a veteran. And lastly, a little bit about the scheduling office, eligibility, and pre-need. Currently, we have 155 national cemeteries all around the United States. That includes soldiers' lots and monument sites. Recently, we have taken on a number of burial sites and cemeteries within military installations. So that's kind of helping us expand and grow. Not to mention the number of sites that we're opening up. Those in red, you'll see are sites that we are growing and expanding into and becoming very popular in. And in Florida, we currently have 9 VA cemeteries here to choose from. Brenda mentioned Sarasota and Florida National, which is up in Bushnell. Those are the 2 that are closest to us. We also have a national cemetery in the West Palm Beach, Lake Worth area over in the east coast of Florida. And we also have one at Cape Canaveral, further up the east coast. We have Jacksonville. We have St. Augustine, which is a closed cemetery, but they still accept subsequent burials there. We also have Tallahassee, as well as Pensacola. So those are all of the VA cemeteries in and around here in the state of Florida. Area benefits. First and foremost, you are entitled to a burial plot, be that either an in-ground or an above ground, as well as the opening and closing of that plot. You're entitled to a concrete grave liner if you are in a casket, or if you are in a traditional cemetery where they do not have the pre-placed concrete liners, you're entitled to a vault to place your casket in. You're entitled to a committal service. Committal service is approximately 30 minutes. You're also entitled to the headstone, flat marker, or a niche cover, as well as the perpetual care and maintenance of the grounds in perpetuity, as well as the security of those grounds. Veterans, you are entitled to the burial flag, of course, the military honor ceremony, which a lot of families have performed here at the cemetery during their committal service time. You're also entitled to a presidential memorial certificate. That is something that we present to the next of kin on the day of the burial, and it is signed by the current president at the time. And the families may order as many of those copies as they wish. They're free of charge to hand out to other family members. And it's just a nice way of saying thank you to the veteran's family and to the spouse on behalf of a very grateful nation for their service to our wonderful country. And lastly, but not least, is of course the rifle salute. Now, there's a lot of misconception out there. Everybody believes they're entitled to a 21 gun salute. And unfortunately, that's been kind of brought about with regards to many movies and so forth. Unfortunately, 21 gun salutes are just for the President of the United States and or any veteran who might have been, or service member, I should say, who was killed in action. However, that's not to say that a rifle salute is not available for families who wish to have it. It is mandated by DoD regulation that a veteran can receive a rifle salute if they are a retiree from the military and or if they were killed in action, as I mentioned. Now, if the family would like to have a rifle salute, they will need to secure that from a veteran service organization such as the Marine Corps League, the American Legion, VFW. One of those veteran service organizations have volunteers that come out and perform that rifle salute if the family wishes to have that as part of their military honors ceremony. But as I mentioned, it is primarily just for the retirees and those that were killed in action as mandated by DoD regulation. Next slide, please. All right, as far as your options, you can be placed in a casket. And as Brenda mentioned, I'm all out of casket space here. And that's very unfortunate in that when they opened the cemetery back in 1933, upon the opening of the Bay Pines Hospital, they only had so much room for caskets, and that's what they filled up. So if any of you who have ever visited our cemetery, you'll see a very large infield, and you'll probably see it behind me there, behind the flag. And that infield has caskets in it. And right now, I do not have any first casket availability. I do have subsequent casket availability, but that has been reserved for those families whose veteran and or spouse is still alive and will need that casket space upon their passing. We do have in-ground cremations available for families, as Brenda mentioned, as well as the columbaria. And the columbaria is that above ground that you see there with the stone and the marble niche covers there. Those are columbaria, and those are designed to accommodate up to 3 urns comfortably. People throughout the years that I've been a part of the VA, especially NCA, have chosen unique ways to be buried. And one of the most unique ways I've heard about from one of my counterparts a few years back was a veteran was a big Harley Davidson rider. And thus you can just imagine, yes, they placed his cremated remains in a Harley Davidson gas tank and placed that in a niche. So the niches can accommodate certainly some interesting ways of being interred, and we can certainly discuss that if you have a unique request in that manner. Ossuaries and scatter gardens are something that we do not have here. You'll find that at other cemeteries, but we don't have that here. But it's another option yet with regards to the wishes of the family and their specific needs. A memorial wall is also available. We don't have that here, but we have what we call a memorial section where we have a flat marker. But it functions in the same capacity in that this memorial wall is designed for families whose loved one was either scattered at sea, or let's say the remains were not recovered. Let's say they passed away as a pilot in their piloting back in World War II or something of that nature, and a plane crashed, and the remains were not able to be recovered. So provided that we have the necessary documentation completed, we can memorialize that veteran here with a marker and as well as their spouse, as well, if necessary, on our memorial section. And last, the green burial. That's something relatively new for us, and we're still awaiting a lot of guidance with respect to that. They're currently doing some tests out in our western cemeteries, but it's yet another option for those families that are very conscious about the environment and their impact on that. Next slide, please. So the committal service, what's involved? Well, you've got, as I mentioned, it's a total of 30 minutes, and that 30 minutes includes the movement from the gathering place to our open air shelter area, where we have ample room for people to sit in our benches. And in that open air shelter area, generally the Department of Defense, DOD, branch of service is standing by, and those individuals will then receive the urn that we would present to them, along with family following the representative, and they all would then turn and walk into the shelter area for the committal service. The types of military honors, pretty much everyone gets the standard, which is the playing of taps on the bugle and the folding of the flag being presented to their next of kin. In some cases, I will authorize an additional flag for families, especially with families with small children. They certainly feel that's important. If the veteran passed away, I'd certainly would like those children to have a flag. And certainly if there's some unique family dynamics out there to hopefully keep the peace between the uniqueness of that family relationship, I would certainly authorize a secondary flag to hopefully keep the peace. Who performs those honors? As I mentioned, that's generally done by the branch of service of the veteran. It could be the Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and even, believe it or not, the Space Force. We haven't had a Space Force service yet, but we are prepared nonetheless for them. But any standard branch of service regulation states a minimum of 2 people, up to 3. And if it is a retiree or someone who was killed in action, then of course they would have the rifle salute team here as well. There is a time limit, as I mentioned. It is 30 minutes, and you would be surprised how quickly 30 minutes passes when you incorporate the movement from our gathering point to the shelter, getting everybody out of their vehicles, getting everybody seated, military honors being performed. Let's say the family has a minister that wants to say a few words, clergyman, rabbi, priest, someone of that nature. And then of course there's family members that want to get up and speak. You know, I'd love to give everybody plenty of time to do so. Believe me, everybody's entitled to it. However, I am bound by my rules and regulations that everyone, veterans and spouses, are entitled to a committal service. And that amount of time that I have to allocate is 30 minutes. Now, there are unique requests. We've had people come out and do dove releases. They'll release the white doves, or butterfly releases. We've had that. We've had people come out with drones and you know, film it. We've also accommodated people that want to live stream. We've got a lot of families spread out all over the country. You know, we can accommodate that as well with your mobile devices if need be. And really, we tend to work as a group, as a team. All of us here are committed to ensuring that our veterans are receiving a dignified burial. They're receiving a lasting memorial for all their dependents as well. And we want to maintain that cemetery as a national shrine. But we work very, very closely with our funeral home partners, as well as our DOD and our veteran service organizations out there to serve our families and the veteran community. Next slide, please. So here's what required. As Brenda mentioned, yes, the DD-214 or some type of discharge paperwork showing an honorable or under honorable conditions is what will qualify you to receive a VA burial. If you do not have access to your discharge paperwork, that's not a showstopper. And I'll discuss how we go about that as we go forward here. But if you have a copy of it, let me suggest that you please make copies of it. Keep it somewhere where your spouse and or your next of kin or whoever is going to be handling your final arrangements has a copy of it. As Brenda mentioned, you know, funeral homes most definitely would need a copy of it. But anyhow, it's just good because that's really the golden ticket that ensures a veteran and or their spouse is entitled to be laid to rest in a VA cemetery. The death certificate is important, although it doesn't always come as quickly as we like. So since we do a lot of cremations, we will accept a cremation certificate. Death certificates are really not necessary, but if you have it, well, by all means, we'll take it. We'll make it part of the file. The agreement for burial cremated remains, we have that specifically for families who wish to keep out a portion of that cremated remains as a keepsake. Maybe they want a little charm necklace, or they want to keep a little urn or something at home. If we're going to divide the cremains, we need to know about that. And we unfortunately will not be able to reopen the resting place of an urn that we've already placed either in ground or above ground, should the family say, you know, I'm kind of tired of wearing this thing around my neck, or you know what, I'm tired of my husband sitting on the mantle. I want to just go put everything back together as it was when we divided it initially. So unfortunately, we're not able to do that, which is why we have them sign this particular form. And the agreement for the divided cremains is just that. If you're going to keep some out, we'll take that as well. So those are the two other documents that we have families fill out as needed. Next slide, please. All right, as far as the markers go, this is the different types of options that you have. The VA does assist with providing a veteran designation, if you will, in a private cemetery. And that's what you see there in the little gray, the little displays that says veteran with the folded flag and the branch of service. VA will provide those to the families who have veterans in private cemeteries so that they are at least acknowledged as a veteran. There's the Presidential Memorial Certificate that I mentioned there, signed by the President. But it's, as I said, we present that the day of the service to the next of kin. And last but not least, you'll also see the flat marker there. That's a bronze flat marker. But all the flat markers you will see in VA cemeteries are either bronze or marble or granite. And you may even see the full-size headstones. And here at Bay Pines, all of our markers, with the exception of our niche covers, are all flat markers. We do not have the traditional full-size headstones here. And everybody loves to ask me, why not? And I said, well, because that decision was made way back when they opened the cemetery. So I wish I had something to say about it, because personally, I love the full-size headstones. However, we have flat markers here, and they contain the same exact information that you'll find on a full-size headstone. But all of our markers here are granite to withstand the elements, as well as the different climate issues that we have that can affect the natural stones, such as a granite or a marble. Next slide, please. Okay, our National Scheduling Office is located in St. Louis, Missouri. So they're in Central Time, which is an hour behind us here in Florida. And they are open 7 days a week, from very early in the morning to about 7, 8 o'clock Central Time. And as I said, they're open on the weekends. And so I'm mentioning that because in many cases, funeral homes and or families have a difficult time trying to get through to schedule services during the week. And a lot of that is because, as I mentioned, we've got 155 VA cemeteries all around the country, and people are calling in from all over, depending on when all these time zones come online, especially out in the West Coast. It can make it real time consuming to be on hold for a long time. So I always recommend to families, if you have the time to maybe call on the weekends when it's not as busy. But what they will do is they'll take a copy of the discharge if you have it. As I said, if you don't have it, it's not a showstopper, because co-located with my scheduling office is a eligibility office, and they have access to the National Archives and Records Administration, or NARA, and they can access that information very quickly and determine a veteran's eligibility within a matter of hours or days at the very latest. But nonetheless, if you have it, that really can help expedite the process significantly. Now, how long does it take to get laid to rest in a VA cemetery? Well, it depends on the VA cemetery. As it stands right now, I can accept a burial as early as this coming Friday because I have available spaces. I can also set them up for the following week. It just depends on when you would like to schedule. Unfortunately, a lot of the VA cemeteries do not offer burials on the weekends. So if you plan to have a burial, it will have to be during the week, Monday through Friday only. Our hours are starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we end at 2:30 in the afternoon. Now, one bit of advice that I always like to give families is that before they contact our scheduling office, which everybody wants to do, they immediately want to call and set it up. And then they call all their family and friends and say, oh, by the way, I scheduled a service. And then they have to call us back to reschedule. So let me invite everyone to, before you call the scheduling office, if you have a veteran or their spouse pass away, please contact your family, get dates and times that works with everybody. Mondays and Fridays tend to be very busy days in VA cemeteries for obvious reasons, because people are traveling from out of town, or people take off from work and school and this type of thing. But nonetheless, I would speak to as many people as I could that you'd like to have attend, get an idea of dates and times, and then contact the scheduling office in St. Louis. There's their phone number there on the screen, and they can set up the date and time for you for the specific cemetery that you would like to be laid to rest in. Next slide, please. All right, so as I mentioned, who is eligible? Well, any veteran who served this great country that has a honorable discharge or under honorable conditions discharge. as well as their spouse, provided, of course, that the spouse and the veteran are legally married at the time of their passing. We will also accept children up to the age of 21 who passed away. And we also make exceptions for those children who were born with some type of a disability that made it difficult for them to exist on their own. So we want to make sure that they have access to being laid to rest with their parents. There is some documentation and so forth that we will need to have completed. But if there is something where the child was born with some type of a disability and it made it difficult for them to exist on their own without the support of the veteran and the spouse, then for sure, we want to offer that benefit to them as well. Let's see, and if there is no discharge, as I mentioned, you don't have to worry. We can certainly set you up working with our scheduling office. Pre-need, if you do not have your discharge paperwork, as I said, it's not a showstopper. You can certainly get it from our scheduling office. However, you can also fill in a pre-need form to get the information sent to you, and then our scheduling office will do the research, determine your eligibility, and then send you a letter. And by all means, you can hang on to that letter, make a copy of it, give it to your scheduling, give it to your funeral home, and or keep it at the day of the service. And we can certainly make it as part of your file. But in the event that you don't have access to that discharge, that's another option for you. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks for them to process a pre-need once they do the research through NARA and determine the eligibility. But they will communicate and get information back to you. And by all means, you're welcome to contact the scheduling office directly and see where your specific letter is in the pipeline. Next slide, please. That completes my presentation. I'm open to any questions that anyone may have, as well as Brenda. So, Judy, go right ahead.
Great. Well, thank you, Doug, for that wonderful presentation. I understand that, talking about death and dying and funeral planning in cemeteries is not light topics of conversation. So, I think it's really important information that we've learned and shared here today. I think the idea of planting the seed of pre-planning with somebody like Brenda to take that emotional burden off of a family at the time of a loss, educating the veterans that we know in the community and that we serve in the community about the spouse opportunity. This is all really important information. It's not light and easy information, but it's important. And I want to thank you both so much for the wealth of information you shared today. And let's open it up to any Q&A. My trusty colleague, Melissa, I think has been monitoring the chat and the Q&A for any questions. So, Melissa?
So I have not seen any questions come through yet. I've been going back through and making sure I didn't miss anything. So I want to give everyone a moment or two to, if they haven't had a chance to ask a question. There are a couple of options for submitting a question. Our chat box is a great place to put it. There's also a Q&A function if you're savvy with that. That's another great option. And then there's also the raise hand function that you can raise your hand, and that alerts me that we have the option to unmute your line and allow you to verbally ask your question if it's one that's either too complicated to type or you're not sure how to use that chat function. So we invite you to use any of those options.
I have a question for Doug.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I met with a family recently, and he wants to be placed at Florida National, but they want the family to be able to go to a graveside pavilion type service at Bay Pines first. Is that possible to schedule both Bay Pines, then actually go to Florida National?
Well, one thing we could do here that would be to conduct a memorial service. All right, and the memorial service would primarily consist of just the military honors. So they could conceivably do military honors here and then go to Florida National and have an actual service there. So
Okay, it is
that's
going to be I'm sorry, it is going to be a full casketed burial. And they were asking, could Veterans Funeral Care take the casket to Bay Pines and then Florida National? Are you saying that would not work?
Well, you know what, Brenda, let me talk with you offline about that and
Okay.
find out logistics. That's kind of an interesting curveball, and I wouldn't expect anything less from somebody at Veterans Funeral Care. So let me explore where we are. However, as I mentioned, we've got the two possibilities where we can have the memorial service here, and then we wanted to have the something where they can go and witness the placement or something of that nature with the casket.
Okay.
So that could be always done. So yeah, let's talk offline about that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem at all. But thank you for the curveball. I haven't had one all week. So that's great. Appreciate it.
We like keeping you on your toes, Doug.
Yeah.
Believe me, it's a daily thing, it seems like. But thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
I just wanted to share something, and Doug, if you could weigh in on this. I've had the honor and privilege of volunteering at Bay Pines National Cemetery in several capacities with Wreaths across America, as well as Flags for Fallen Heroes. For those on the call who haven't been aware of those opportunities to honor our veterans who are located at the National Cemetery, can you just briefly share about some of those opportunities and how people might best keep that on their radar?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Trudy. Yes, those are two ways that we go about acknowledging our veterans. As Trudy mentioned, the first one is Wreaths Across America, and that is conducted by the organization by the same name, Wreaths Across America, and they do have a website called wreathsacrossamerica.org, and families may go in, and anyone may go in and purchase wreaths to be placed on veterans' grave sites at any VA cemetery, or even Arlington National Cemetery, which is where this whole process began, was at Arlington, and it began to spread all through the VA cemeteries. But for sure, we have a group that comes out. They're all volunteers to help us lay those wreaths. We will perform that on the Saturday before Christmas. So it's only June, and I just got past Memorial Day. So allow me a little breather before I start thinking about Wreaths Across America. But be that as it may, there will be information. We will get word out. If you're a member of the Bay Pines Facebook page or any of their social media platforms, you'll see information about it. I will do my best. I will certainly get out press releases to the media so that they can get the word out about Wreaths Across America. You may even see commercials as we get a little closer to the holiday period where families and friends would like to purchase those available. Flags for Fallen Vets is something that I just initiated here at Bay Pines. I worked with them very closely when I was in Dallas, and when I took my assignment here, I realized that they didn't have it here. So I said, my goodness, I would really like for them to be here. The purpose of Flags for Fallen Vets is to ensure that every veteran's gravesite has a flag on it for Memorial Day. And we had the veterans come out for our inaugural meeting was on the Sunday before Memorial Day. So that would have been the 29th of May. And they came out. We had over 300 to 400, 500 people here. And in about 38 minutes, they placed over 28,000 flags all around the cemetery. And when I walked outside, I was really overcome with emotion, just standing there and watching those flags flapping in the breeze. I mean, just as far as my eye could see, all around my whole 27 acres here. It was just really, really overwhelming to watch. And eventually when I drove around and looked, it was just incredible. So it was an incredible sight. It was for anybody that came out here for Memorial Day or afterwards, it was a very special way to acknowledge and recognize our veterans. But nonetheless, we will be conducting that again every year here at the VA cemetery. And as I mentioned, we will get information out through the social platforms, social media platforms at the hospital, as well as through the media. And then last but not least, one other event that we have here, and we conduct this every month, and it's conducted at 3 p.m. and it's for unaccompanied veterans. And every month we have veterans who we lay to rest here who do not receive military honors. For one reason or another, the families can't attend, the children or whatever are spread out all around the country and they can't get here. So we keep a list of everybody's names, and our local Veteran Service Organization partner, American Legion Post 273, hosts this event on the first Tuesday of every month. And we invite any and everyone to come out and be a part of the ceremony. And they simply just read off the names, the branches of service, the rank of the service member, and they ring a bell, and then they will do a rifle salute and a playing of taps on the bugle, and then we will present the flag to someone in attendance. So if anyone has time, we'd love to have as many people attend that. Again, first Tuesday of every month at 3 p.m. at the Bay Pine Cemetery.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that information.
I did see a couple of questions. There's actually a question for Doug and Brenda. And I'll just say, just being cognizant of time, I know that many people have to, I know several people have had to log off. So as with much brevity as you can, the question for Brenda is, are there any similar funeral homes in Southwest Florida? We have folks that are joining us in like Sarasota and south of Sarasota, for example, that are curious if there's anything in their area.
As far as Florida, we are your funeral home. We can take care of anything happening in Florida. We do have providers all over the US that are part of our brand that we use, but in Florida, we will take care of it.
Thanks, Brenda. And for Doug, the question is, what are the requirements for being buried at Arlington National Cemetery?
Very good question. Requirements are the same to be buried at Arlington. I can tell you that Arlington is part of the Department of Defense, so they are not part of the VA, but they follow the same process. You will need to secure a discharge paperwork. If not, they have their own resources where they can help you schedule and set up a burial. If you have some interest in being placed at Arlington, let me suggest that you go to their website and gather information, because things are getting a little closed down there, unfortunately, because they're running out of space. However, they are doing everything they possibly can to stay open as long as possible, and still have veterans laid to rest there. So if that's something that interests you, let me suggest you visit their website and just see what the latest information is with regards to their requirements to be laid to rest there.
Great. Well, thank you both, Brenda and Doug, for the very important and interesting information. I've learned a lot myself, and I've been doing this for a long time, so there was always something new to learn. And to Doug's ask that we become champions out there in the community to educate our veteran community and their spouses as to these benefits. So I would like to just close by saying thank you very, very much for attending today. Thank you to all of the military service men and women on the call and our veterans for your service and for joining us today. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Brenda, Doug, myself, or Melissa. And we look forward to seeing you next month on June. No, today's June. July 27th, I believe, will be the date of our next veterans briefing on hearing loss, tinnitus, and applying for VA disability. So please join us for that. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.
You too.